I should have known something was wrong the moment I walked through the front door, but I didn't. I was too tired from my long shift at the bar, too distracted by the dull ache in my feet, too relieved to finally be home. It wasn't until later that night when the strange things started happening, when I realized just how wrong everything had gone. It started with a phone call. I had just kicked off my boots and tossed my jacket onto the chair in the hallway. The house was eerily quiet. Too quiet. It was an odd thing to feel considering I lived alone. But the silence that night was different. There was no hum from the fridge, no distant sound of traffic from outside, just an oppressive stillness that seemed to swallow up the house. I was standing in the living room, scanning the dark room for my phone, when the sudden ringing pierced through the silence. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered it anyway. Maybe it was a friend from work, maybe someone I'd met while waiting tables at the bar. Hello? A crackling sound on the other end of the line, followed by silence. I waited for someone to speak, but the line remained dead. No voices, no background noise, just static. I wasn't one to get spooked easily, so I hung up. But something gnawed at me. Something about that silence. It wasn't right. I tried to shake it off. It was probably just a wrong number or some glitch. I was about to set my phone down on the coffee table when I heard something. A faint shuffle, like footsteps on carpet. I froze. My house wasn't large. I'd know if someone had come in. But the sound persisted, coming from upstairs. Slow, deliberate steps. I stood still for a moment, not sure if I should go upstairs or just ignore it. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks after a long shift, but the thought that someone was in my house, moving around in the dark, sent a chill down my spine. I crept quietly toward the staircase, my feet barely making a sound on the hardwood floor. The stairs creaked under my weight as I ascended, one step at a time, the sound of each footfall seeming louder than the last. I reached the top of the stairs and paused. The house felt too still, too quiet. There was no sign of movement. I took a few more tentative steps down the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. My bedroom door was open, and the light from the hallway spilled into the dark room. The silence pressed in on me. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and quick. There was no one here. There couldn't be. But as I moved closer to the door, I saw it. A figure standing in the corner of my room, just standing there, motionless, with its back to me. I froze. I had no idea who or what this was. My first instinct was to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, watching this figure in my room. It didn't move. Not at first. Then slowly, the figure turned. And when it did, I realized it was only my jacket, hanging from the back of my chair. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, feeling the tension leave my body all at once. It was just my stupid jacket. I must have imagined it, my mind playing tricks on me. Relieved, I closed the door and turned to head back downstairs, but as I did, I heard it again, the faint shuffle of footsteps. This time it was coming from the floor below. I froze again, my heart pounding. I went back to the stairs, peering down over the railing, my hands shaking. I could see nothing. The house was dark, just the occasional flicker of light from the street lamp outside. That's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. The front door was open. It had been closed when I came in. I knew it had been. I always make sure to lock it, but now it was wide open, the cold night air rushing into the hallway. I backed away from the stairs, my hands gripping the railing for support. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it. Could someone have snuck in while I was upstairs? Was I hearing things? Or was someone in the house with me? I grabbed my phone and dialed the police, but before I could speak, I heard it again. A soft sound just outside the door. A a quiet, rhythmic tapping, like someone was knocking on the walls. It wasn't the wind. It was too deliberate, too purposeful. My fingers were trembling as I held the phone to my ear, waiting for the dispatcher to answer. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house, I whispered, my voice barely a breath. Stay calm. Stay on the line. Where are you right now? I'm upstairs, but the door is open. Someone's downstairs. My heart was in my throat now, my mind a whirlwind of panic. Please, hurry. Stay on the line, the dispatcher said, their voice calm but firm. Do you have a way out? I glanced toward the window, the one overlooking the street. But there was no way I could climb out, not in time. No, I muttered, my voice tight. Just hurry, please. But just as I spoke, the knocking stopped. The silence in the house grew heavier, suffocating. Then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of footsteps. Again, creeping slowly up the stairs, each step deliberate and heavy. I didn't move. I couldn't. I held my breath as the footsteps grew closer, so close that I could hear them coming up the hall toward me. I could almost feel the weight of each step, like someone was closing in on me just behind the door. Suddenly the door handle turned. I snapped my head toward it, panic flooding my chest. The door didn't open, it just rattled, a soft, deliberate turn of the knob, as if whoever was on the other side was trying to test it, trying to see if I was still there. I whispered into the phone, "They're at the door. I need help. Please." Then, to my horror, the handle began to turn again. More forcefully this time, as if whoever it was knew I was inside. The door rattled with the weight of it. There was no time to think, no time to plan. I bolted toward the window, yanking it open and throwing myself out onto the grass below. I didn't care if I broke something, if I fell. I just had to get away. I sprinted down the driveway, not daring to look back, my heart thumping in my ears. I didn't know if anyone was behind me, if the figure had followed me out the window. I just ran, faster than I'd ever run before, until I was far enough from the house that I could see the lights of the police cars flashing in the distance. The police arrived quickly. By the time I returned to the house, they had already secured the perimeter. They found nothing. No sign of forced entry, no sign of anyone who shouldn't have been there. Nothing. But they did find something strange. My front door wasn't just open. It had been locked from the outside. And the scariest part, I was still the only one home. It started with the front door. I know how absurd that sounds. But that's where everything began. You never really think about your front door. Just a barrier between the outside world and the life you've built inside. But that night, it was the front door that set my nerves on edge. I should back up. My name's Ryan. I'm 28, work a boring IT job, and live alone in a modest 2-bedroom house that feels too big for just me. My social life isn't much. Mostly the occasional dinner with coworkers, or gaming online with friends I haven't seen in years. I moved here a year ago, needing a fresh start after a bad breakup. The quiet was supposed to help me heal, but lately it's felt too quiet, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. That night, I just finished my usual routine, reheated leftovers for dinner, an hour of doom scrolling on my phone, and a half-hearted attempt at reading a book before giving up and turning on the TV. It was a little after 11 when I heard it, a soft click, like a door being unlatched. My heart skipped, but I rationalized it immediately. Old houses make noises, wood shifts, hinges, creak. It's nothing. Still, I muted the TV and listened. Nothing. I chuckled to myself, shaking my head at how easily I could get spooked. I turned the volume back up, but the sound didn't sit right with me. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. 10 minutes later, I went to bed determined to shake the unease. I double-checked the locks on the front door. Deadbolt secure, handle locked, and climbed into bed. My room felt colder than usual, and I pulled the comforter tighter around me. The exhaustion of the day eventually won, and I drifted off. The sound that woke me was unmistakable. Footsteps. They were soft but deliberate, moving down the hallway outside my bedroom. I shot up in bed, heart pounding, straining to listen. The house was pitch black, save for the faint glow of my phone on the nightstand. Hello? My voice came out shaky, weaker than I wanted. Silence. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, sweeping the beam across my room. Everything looked normal. The door to my room was slightly ajar, exactly how I'd left it. My breathing slowed a little. Maybe I'd dreamed it. I tried convincing myself of that as I tiptoed to the door, peering into the hallway. Empty. I stepped out, the wooden floor cold beneath my feet. The hallway stretched into darkness, and the silence pressed against me like a weight. I checked the bathroom first. Empty. Then the guest room. Also empty. I finally made my way to the living room. Everything was in its place. The couch, the TV, the pile of laundry I'd been avoiding. The front door was still locked. Get it together, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. I felt ridiculous. A grown man getting worked up over creaky floors. I grabbed a glass of water and headed back to bed, determined to sleep. When I woke again, it was still dark. The room was freezing, and I could see my breath in the dim light from my phone. My blanket was on the floor, and my bedroom door was wide open. I froze, my mind racing. I hadn't left it like that. Then I heard it. A faint creak coming from the living room. My stomach churned, and every instinct screamed at me to stay put, but I forced myself out of bed, clutching my phone like a weapon. As I approached the living room, I felt it, a presence. It's hard to describe, but you know when someone is near you, even if you can't see them. That's what it felt like. The living room was empty. My eyes darted to the front door. Still locked. I checked the windows. All closed. The house was sealed tight. So, how? I returned to bed, every muscle tense, and stayed awake until the first rays of dawn seeped through the curtains. The morning light brought some relief, but the gnawing unease lingered. The next night, I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe the stress of being alone was getting to me. I'd never had issues living by myself before, but maybe the isolation was messing with my head. I put on some music to fill the silence, cooked a proper meal, and tried to convince myself it was all in my imagination. Around midnight, I heard it again. This time, it wasn't just footsteps. It was a door creaking, slowly, deliberately. I bolted out of bed, phone in hand, and flung open my bedroom door. The hallway was empty, but the guest room door, which I always left open, was now closed. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the closed door. My rational mind fought against the rising tide of fear. Maybe I'd closed it earlier without realizing. Maybe. A loud thud came from the other side of the door. I stumbled back, nearly dropping my phone. "Who's there?" My voice cracked, betraying my terror. No response. I edged closer, every step feeling like a mile. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob, twisting it slowly. The door creaked open, revealing the dark, empty room. Empty, except for one thing. On the bed was a single object, a photograph. My heart stopped as I stepped closer, the blood draining from my face. It was a picture of me, taken from outside my living room window. In the photo, I was sitting on the couch, staring at my phone. I hadn't noticed anyone outside. My hands shook as I backed out of the room, slamming the door shut. I grabbed my keys, threw on a coat and left the house, not caring that it was the middle of the night. I drove to a 24-hour diner, parked in the lot, and sat there for hours, trying to make sense of what had happened. By the time the sun rose, I decided I couldn't stay there anymore. I'd pack up my things, sell the house, and find a cramped apartment in the city where I'd never have to be alone again. When I returned home later that morning, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I went straight to the guest room, but the photograph was gone. Everything looked normal, like nothing had happened. For a brief moment, I wondered if I'd imagined it all. Then I saw it. Scratched into the inside of the guest room door, barely visible in the daylight, were 3 words: "You are mine." I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every creak, every shadow, every whisper of wind felt like a threat. I stayed locked in my room, clutching a baseball bat, counting down the days until I could leave. But deep down, I know I won't make it that long. It's not the house that's wrong. It's me. It's been watching me all along, and now it's just waiting for me to stop running.